Take a look at the compounding pressure of a standard modern life. You have the heavy demands of an education, the intense competition to build a career, and the constant weight of family expectations, all stacking up at once. As those stressors layer over each other, they trigger a very specific psychological response. At a certain point, the instinct isn't to work harder. It's a deep, overwhelming desire to simply drop everything, walk away, and escape society entirely. If you search online today, you'll find a culturally romanticized version of this exit strategy. It gets rebranded as spirituality, a lifestyle celebrating rugged isolation, often relying on chemical intoxicants to artificially force a trance-like state. We have to ask, what is actually happening in these moments? Does abandoning your family and lighting up a pipe signal higher consciousness, or just a strategy to avoid the friction of reality? The argument you often hear from modern seekers goes something like this: traditional education and worldly careers are a trap, and to truly quiet the mind, you need external substances to lock in your focus and elevate your thinking. That perspective creates immediate friction. Young adults start actively rebelling against their practical duties, viewing their parents, teachers, and obligations as obstacles to their personal enlightenment. Traditional Eastern wisdom pushes back hard on this approach. It views any chemical intoxication as a synthetic, external shortcut. You aren't elevating your senses with these substances. You are merely numbing them to avoid the hard work. Actual spiritual practice demands exactly the opposite. It requires you to sit with the absolute chaos of your own mind, completely sober, and face it head-on, instead of poisoning the senses to fake a temporary peace. To understand why we feel the need to escape, we have to look at the source. The root cause of human anxiety isn't the external world, your job, or your bank account. It is the internal human mind itself, which traditional texts often describe literally as a box of diseases. Because the mind is inherently greedy, treating prayer like a transaction is a dead end. Asking the divine for worldly wealth or success only feeds that same mind's endless loop of desires. The only offering that actually matters, what is known as Guru Dakshina, is taking that chaotic, anxious mind and fully surrendering it to a higher power. It operates as a strict zero-sum equation. The human ego and the divine presence cannot occupy the same space. When one expands, the other has to leave. Once the ego collapses, all its worldly appetites go with it. That total destruction of self-interest is the real intoxication, achieving a liberated state that no chemical could ever replicate. To see why we feel so restless before that surrender happens, we can look at a basic philosophical concept. A human life is essentially an individual drop of water separated from an infinite oceanic source. This visualization shows a single drop hitting a landscape. Driven by gravity, it immediately seeks the path of least resistance, constantly navigating downward through complex terrain. Eventually, millions of isolated drops combine into streams, then rivers, driven to return to the sea. We operate on the exact same physical principle. When we spend our lives chasing the byproducts of the world, like status or wealth, often personified as Lakshmi, we stay in motion, feeling perpetually anxious and unsatisfied. Water doesn't stop moving until it hits the ocean. Similarly, the human mind only achieves permanent peace when it stops getting distracted by worldly obstacles and reunites directly with its foundational source. Now, people often defend their desire to run away by pointing to history. There are famous spiritual figures like Prahlad or Mira who actively rebelled against their families and broke all societal rules to find the divine. But if we look at the ancient texts that document these extreme paths, these historical rebellions are treated as absolute exceptions to the rule. There is a crucial distinction here. Those specific figures broke the rules because they were consumed by an overwhelming, all-encompassing divine love. They did not run away because they failed an exam or wanted to sit around smoking. Without that historically profound level of devotion, walking away from daily responsibilities qualifies as an evasion of duty rather than a spiritual breakthrough. For the modern seeker, the ultimate practical framework is a concept called nishkam karma, or detached action. It means living fully within the world without being emotionally entangled in it. The instruction is entirely practical. Finish your education. Execute your career. Honor your obligations to your family. You do all of this to the best of your ability, but you detach yourself from the anxiety of the final outcomes. This framework transforms daily life into the ultimate spiritual proving ground, where the mind stays surrendered, while the body remains engaged in the fight. The most enduring penance is found by those who stand their ground in worldly chaos, while maintaining an inner state of absolute surrender.